Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Grab yourself a cuppa or a coffee. Let's have a chat. Lots going on. So, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen the news already, but we are having, through a sequence of events, having to move house. I'm gutted. I'm so gutted. I love this house. This is a rented property, but the landlord, when we moved in, said you stay as long as you want. So we always knew it wasn't going to be our forever home, but we at least thought we could be here for about 10 years ish. That was our plan anyway, to stay here for about 10 years, and then hopefully by then move on to, well, what we would ideally like is a bit of land so we can have chickens and grow food. But that was the kind of long-term plan. That hasn't happened. You always know that it's volatile when you're renting, but we had a combination of things happen in the last couple of weeks. It's been quite stressful, really has. I'm drinking my Tulsi, try and calm down, to be honest. But it's been quite stressful. Eric had some news at work to say that he was going to have to take a pay cut, not massive, but it's significant enough. And then the very next week, the landlord said we're putting the rent up. I need it to be quite substantially more than it has been, and we can't do it. So we've got 3 months. We'll be moving in for the short term into my mother-in-law's house. Eric's mum lives very close by. She lives in Washington. For my American friends, that's the ancestral home of George Washington, is literally in the town up there. We live in Sunderland. She lives in Washington. They're very, very close. I had a couple of days of crying and grieving of all the plans we'd made. I had so many good plans. It's taken us a couple of years to work out how best to use the garden, because it's not particularly the safest garden in the world. We're on a really quite a big gradient, big slope, and the garden was left to us when we moved in a bit of a state. So we've done quite a lot to it, but we couldn't afford to do the major building works of repairing retaining walls and putting up barriers. We've got a little girl, she's 4 now, but when we moved in, she was like 18 months old, and you couldn't let her out in the garden safely. However, we were on track to rectify a lot of that. But it is what it is. It's our urban homestead life, and life throws you curveballs sometimes, So I had a couple of nights and when I saw my mother-in-law and she was like, "Oh, all your plans," I was like, "I know," and I had a little cry with her. But then we got on with the task of figuring out what we're going to do. So the plan is to temporarily. So the plan is to, in the short term, move into my mother-in-law's house, and that ticks a couple of boxes because my mother-in-law has been struggling she's got a 3-bedroom, 2-story house, and she's been living in it on her own since my father-in-law passed away a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago actually now, coming up. And so she's struggling to get up the stairs. She needs a knee operation. There's a few bits that have caused her to kind of think, oh, actually, I'm not coping greatly in here. So us moving in is going to help with that. She's got a garage that she's had already converted. It's got a bathroom and a room that could be used as a bedroom for her. And so we're going to have a go at doing that for a little while. But what that also means is I've got a lot of stuff in containers. I kept my trees in pots, I must have known. But I've got all my trees, I've got all my garden stuff. I can just take that, put it in her garden. But she's got a front garden that's long and has the sun all morning. But more than that, she's got a back garden that is enclosed. It's safe. It's no access to the back at all, except through the house. So Hannah can quite comfortably go play in the back garden all summer long. And if any of you have seen any of my videos before, you know that my child is an outdoor kid. She loves being outside. This garden will enable her to be outside all summer in all weathers, because we always have the good old English weather that you can't rely on. But even if it's wet, it's safe. There's no mud for her to be traipsing through the house. There's no, it's paved back garden. So she can be out there with a water table. She can be out there with a scooter. She can play on a scooter, which she couldn't do here because she had a little tiny bit of concrete paving at the top of quite a sheer drop. And I was always really, well, no, don't do that, don't do that. Always really worried she was going to drop off the edge of this concrete. So she's going to be safe to play. On top of that, the house is Washington's very green. Everywhere is green. There's so much greenery everywhere. And just over the back of the houses at the opposite side of the road, there's a big wood. It's a dog walker's paradise. Hannah loves dogs as well. We haven't got a dog ourselves yet, but a dog walker's paradise. Nana has a dog though, so Hannah can go on walks with Nana. We can take the dog out for a walk for her. And it's a big wood with a play park. It's absolutely stunning. It's very safe as well. The road that we've got right outside the house we live in now, we're right in the middle of a typical English, I'm not going to lie, quite rough housing estate. And the boy races tear past it's supposed to be 20 miles an hour, and they tear past our house at such a rate, it's quite scary, to the point where I won't let my son's got a bike in the garage. He's 17, and I say to him, you can't go out on it. He's got Asperger's, so his awareness is not the best anyway. But he could go out on his bike at Nana's because it's a quieter, calmer area. Here, I wouldn't trust the people around to not knock him off his bike. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be safer all around. If I just take myself out of the equation and my wants, it's going to be safer for the children all around. The one thing I'm not looking forward to is that her kitchen is absolutely tiny compared to this big kitchen that I've got here. So cooking from scratch will be a challenge. However, this is a really fantastic opportunity actually, because I'm used to a fairly big garden. Even for an urban garden, it's fairly big, and a big kitchen. It's quite a challenge, but actually one I'm looking forward to. How do I scale down my kitchen? How do I take the things I've taken for granted, all the gadgets, all the free space to keep all my baking things out, and make that work in a smaller, more regular size kitchen? You know, I'm very blessed. Not many people have a kitchen this size. But you can do it in an urban environment, in a smaller kitchen, in a place where you haven't got miles of grass and miles of fields and miles, all of that. I'm all about making it work where you are. So actually, this will be quite an exciting adventure, to scale down everything, to see, how I can declutter, how I can take only the necessities with me. We are going to rent a storage locker, because we're trying to merge two households, in a short period of time. We've got 3 months. We're trying to merge two households in a short period of time. That's furniture from her house, furniture from our house, clothes from a husband who's passed away. There's things that sentimentally she might not want to get rid of. So we're going to put them together and rent a storage locker. And that way, no hard decisions have to be rushed for her as well as us. And we can see how things work in the house. We can see how we function in the house. We're not planning on doing any renovating, any decorating, anything like that, because we don't know how long we're going to be there. We're not even going to decorate the little girls' room. My mother-in-law said we could if we to ease the transition, but actually we're not going to do that. But we can see how we function in the house, see if we need anything. I don't want to chuck everything out. I've done this before. You throw everything out and then you get to some, because you don't think you've got room, and then you realise, actually, I could have used that, and then you've got to buy it again. If it's nominal, I don't mind throwing, a pan out and getting a new one, because they're not particularly expensive to buy. But I don't want to throw a big piece of furniture out because I think, there's nowhere for that at the moment, or I don't know if I'll need that in a newer house. Only to find when I get there, could I use that? So we're just going to put everything in storage. So that means no more seed starting at the moment. I'm going to plant up the bulbs that I've got. I'm just looking at my seeds over there. So I'm going to pot up me tomatoes and things like that, because there's a conservatory at my mother-in-law's, so that we can put it in the back of the conservatory. It's like a mini greenhouse. Um, and I can still grow those sort of heat tolerant things. But no more seed starting for this year, and we'll see how we go. I am going to take my metal raised beds with me, but I'm going to leave my wooden ones because they've been here a few years, and if I tried to move them, they'd fall apart. They are, weather worn now. So I'm going to leave those. And then I'm going to take all of my pots and my garlic that's in pots. I'm leaving a bed of onions. Not going to get my onion sets that I bought planted now. But so that's kind of just catching you up to where we are. We're in the process of thinking through, the what order we do things in. We're going to have to help the mother-in-law sort her house as well. And so, yeah, it's just, we're away this weekend. So we're kind of just hanging fire before we get going on things, because we're visiting family this weekend. So yeah, we're just, now that I've shifted my mindset, I had my few days of grieving, my few days of disappointment. Now that I've shifted my mindset to, right, let's get this done. I need a plan. I need to list things. I need to make a list of the order of rooms we're sorting out. I need to make, when are we going to hire the storage locker. Once we get back, I'm going to be full on in planning mode. That's just me. I'm a planner. I like to know what I'm doing. I like to have at least a slight bit of control in a situation. And for me, a list. I've got my little list here. Look. A list is a little modicum of control for me. So yeah, so that means that the channel's going to change slightly. Maybe become even more urban homestead. So it's not a bad thing at all. I just wanted to keep you up to date, because I won't be doing all the garden things that I planned. I won't be, nipping into the pantry for much longer. I'm gonna have to try and find a way to make a pantry, because I love it. I function so well with it. So yeah, just if you're the praying sort, pray for us that it all goes smoothly. And stay tuned, because we'll have lots of videos to come, just like different content.